Can you resist the bright, shiny, candy-like button?
Welcome to another episode of Let's Rewatch, the show where we watch movies we loved in our youth and see if they're actually still any good. I'm Nick.
I'm Bret.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Super Ash.
And this time around, we're doing our San Diego Comic-Con extravaganza, and we will be watching Supraman, the original 1978 Supraman, directed by Richard Donner. As usual, we're going to talk a little bit about our expectations, but then we're going to stop and watch the movie and pick up again at San Diego during Comic-Con, and we were hoping to hear some voices from some of our fans and some of our friends, people who may want to jump in and meet up with us at Comic-Con and talk to us a little bit about the movie. Now, I do want to also mention that another exciting thing is happening in the world of comic books. Brian Michael Bendis, who is a huge writer for Marvel, who basically defined the modern Spider-Man, defined the modern Avengers, who created Jessica Jones, who's done so much amazing work at Marvel over this past year, left Marvel and took a job at DC, where he will be the writer for, I think, 3 separate Superman books. Complete reboot of Superman. So we're going to also, I don't know if we'll all have the chance to, but at least some of us will read a few issues of the new Man of Steel, and we might have some stuff to talk about that as well. So that's a lot on our plate. What have you guys all seen Superman?
No.
I've seen one of the Supermans.
Supermans?
Yeah.
You guys haven't seen this movie?
No, I feel like we've discussed this before. How you always bring it up and we're always like, we haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to say the thing that I've seen because I think it's a big spoiler, but I think I've seen the third one.
Okay. Yeah, the third one, I think that's the one with Richard Pryor, gets a little squirrely. I don't know if that's the third or the fourth one.
I've seen Supergirl. Does that count?
Well, it's not the movie we're talking about, but it is related. So this is Superman from 1978. We've seen some Richard Donner movies. We saw Goonies. We saw Lethal Weapon. We've talked quite a bit about Richard Donner. Our stars here are Christopher Reeve, and Christopher Reeve was pretty unknown at this time. We've got Margot Kidder, Marlon Brando, and Gene Hackman.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Gene Hackman. How old is Gene Hackman?
I don't know.
Old, I guess.
Got to be getting up there.
A vampire.
Also, are you going to talk about who does the score?
I am going to talk about the score. And I wonder if you guys will indulge me for a moment as I talk a little bit about the significance of Superman. And if I'm too long-winded, let me know. But you guys know that I'm a huge fan of superheroes. Ash, we've talked a little bit. You're not as big a fan of superhero movies.
Well, I'm a Batman person. I'm
interesting.
I love Batman. So, I feel like there's usually 2 camps of people. You're either Superman or Batman, usually.
You're an Elvis man or a Beatles man.
Yeah.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about what makes Superman so important. And if you think about what Superman is, he is the superhero. If we lived in a world with no superheroes and there was only one, that hero would be Superman. Superman's powers are that he is super. You know, he is the strange, powerful guardian. You know, I'm a big fan of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is my guy, but Spider-Man wouldn't exist without Superman. Every superhero is, in a way, in my opinion, a version of Superman. He is the shining beacon of hope, the protector, the person who teaches us that if you have the strength to do something good and you do not use that strength to do something good, then you are doing it wrong. That everybody should aspire to use their strengths in a way that will help the world, help people, and make the world a better place.
Well, what is that quote? The bad deeds happen because good men do nothing, or something like that.
Yeah. Or the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibilities. This is the definition of Superman. And, I think it's, and, everybody has their favorite superhero, everybody who has an interest in superheroes. And there's an important inclusion that the superhero represents us. Black Panther has done amazing things this year. I think Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman already has, and Captain Marvel very soon will be this symbol for women as a superhero. And I think it's easy to say that Superman is not inclusive because he's just a white guy. But I think you need to remember that Superman was created at the tail end of World War II by Jewish writers as a direct response to the concept of the Übermensch, which was a big part of the Nazi propaganda. So this is, in my mind, a superhero for all, and he is the definitive superhero, the symbol of hope. And I have expressed great frustration with some of these newer Superman movies, Batman versus Superman, Man of Steel, where they are not true to that character, to that intent, to that symbol of hope. And Sam, you mentioned the score. This is one of the most important scores by John Williams, one of the most important composers for film. And I want to give everybody a challenge. I want you to, whether you watch this movie and watch that opening credit or just find it on Spotify or whatever, listen to the overture of this score, because the overture of this score tells you everything that you need to know about Superman that the new movies do wrong. It sets you up this mysterious, these mysterious little teases. Then it grows into a grand strength, and it builds to a flying, soaring symbol of hope. The music tells this story. And all you need is the overture to this score to tell you what Superman represents and why he's so important. And I'm sorry if that's like long-winded or anything, but this is, to me, a very important character, a very important film, and it sets up what is good about storytelling, what's good about the characters that we aspire to. And everybody's kind of looking at me blank-faced, but that's where we're coming from. This is an important symbol to me, and us going to Comic-Con and talking about this, I think, is very exciting. Even
without having seen the movie or only seen parts of the movie, hearing the score, like it 100% sets the tone. Like, it's funny how what you said is totally right about that music. Like, and it feels like superhero music without even knowing its context if you hear it.
It's a score that stands on its own. The music almost tells the story.
Yeah. Some of my favorite movies of all times, they do a really good job of allowing the score to take some of the weight of the storytelling. Like you think of Star Wars, and like a lot of the iconic scenes have that heavy music. Indiana Jones, like that music, really carries the adventure of the story. And so I'm excited to see how this music, carries this story.
I mean, I think music in filmmaking is most of the time the thing that's really carrying the emotion. It's the thing that makes you tear up, usually. And it should always just be accentuating what's already there. But, like, if you have a really emotional moment and you take the music out, it's not going to feel as impactful as it does with that great emotional music.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm surprised you haven't seen it, and excited for you to see. And certainly, as we're saying, the music is going to play a big part of that. But there's a tone, there's a character, all of that stuff. I'm curious your expectations. Like, Ash, what do you think? I'm sure at this point it's got to be tinged by my endless spewing about the movie, but what are your expectations here?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I'm gonna like it, because I I honestly don't like Superman. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan.
And that's totally fine. Like, I'm curious why you don't like Superman, because I hear a lot of this from a lot of people.
Nick's just like, why, Ash? Explain yourself.
Why? I'm going to explain why I don't like Superman by explaining why I like Batman. What I like about Batman is that he's just a normal human. And he's a normal human who still accomplishes and does superhuman-like things. And so, to me, I don't like the idea that there's... I think maybe this is why I'm not, like, a huge fan of, like, the superhero genre in general, is, like, I don't like the idea that there has to be something special about this person for them to do great things. Like, I like the idea that every human has the potential to do great things. And that's what I feel like Batman brings to the table. Like, that's the message of Batman for me. So between the two, I've always gravitated more towards Batman because of that. But, I mean, I know that it's also problematic that his superhero is having lots and lots of money, but... or his superpower. But I like the idea that he's just like a normal guy who decided, like, no, I want to, do good things,
he's
for
a
the
ninja.
world. Yeah, I love ninjas, so, but it's not necessarily that I, like, hate Superman or anything. I've just never really, like, gravitated towards that. And I think also because... another reason why I like Batman is usually the Batman plots don't revolve around a damsel in distress as much as Superman does. Like, I feel like from what I know of Superman, there's always this vision of Lois Lane, or right? Yeah.
Yep.
Lois Lane, like, falling and Superman having to save her. And, like, same thing with Spider-Man. Like, it feels like it plays really heavy on the damsel in distress that I'm not really, a fan of.
I think that's particularly true of the old Fleischer cartoons. And maybe the 1940s or 1950s TV show.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's definitely basis to that.
Yeah.
Seems like a thing, like, the second time you've fallen from a great height, you should start avoiding great heights.
Lois.
Well, it's just...
She's got to get the story, you guys.
It's just always, like, saving the woman is used as, like, a plot device that's, like, kind of,
Yeah.
it's lame.
Okay.
But that being said, I have not seen this movie, and I'm basing that off of stereotypes of Superman. I haven't actually seen the films, so...
Well, I think that's such a valid opinion. Like, everything that you're saying, like, you are going to gravitate towards the characters that you like. And, you've got a really good foundation for why you like Batman. I think, for example, Mr. Zack Snyder does not like Superman and should not have made Superman movies.
Yeah.
And if you want to make other movies, make other movies.
Yeah.
Clearly I have a chip on my shoulder. Yeah, I'm curious to see how much of those concerns play out in this movie and, how you feel after it.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome to be, like, pleasantly surprised and be like, oh, wow. But I honest to God, I have not even... I mean, I know that Christopher Reeve plays Superman, but, like, that's the only thing I know about this movie. Like, I don't think I've even seen, like, clips from this movie. That's how, like, in the dark I am about it. So... I guess, it has the potential of completely surprising me. Like, you guys were talking about the score. I don't even know. I've never even heard that. So I don't know.
You've heard bits of it. I'm trying to remember in Ferris Bueller, I think it's the Superman score, either that or it's Star Wars, where the guys who work in the garage steal the car.
Star
and they go
Wars.
Oh, it's Star Wars. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they are similar scores. Like,
you'll recognize the themes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible I've heard it with, like, here's a montage of,
Right.
John Williams sort of thing. And I just didn't know what it was.
What do you expect, Bret? You say you've seen a Superman.
Yeah, not enough to really have a good memory of it. I think when I was younger, I had a limited access to comics. I was briefly into comics and then just kind of fell away for other hobbies. And I was really big into Spider-Man. And I feel like I'm trying to come up with like a good metaphor for how I feel about Superman in general. And I think it's that...
Sexy? Is that the word you're looking for?
There you go. That's it. Sexy. That is exactly what I was looking for. When we were in art school, there were 2 camps, and I was alone in one of them, which was modern art versus, like, you know, fine art.
Classic,
yeah, classical artwork. And a lot of people, everyone hated modern art because it was... because what made it cool was the context and not maybe a lot of it, not so much exactly the art. Like classical art was like, this is a beautiful thing, we have to put it on canvas. Modern art is like, you know, this is a square, but like, you know, what does that actually mean? And I feel like that's what I'm hoping to get out of watching this. Is right now I'm on the team that is kind of like, I don't really care too much about Superman, but I also don't know too much about the Superman lore. Like I know the bad guys, you know, because there's the cartoons a little bit when I was younger, but I don't know these movies. And what I want is that context to appreciate like what's, you know, what makes Superman dope. And I think this is where it comes from for a lot of people. Is these movies. So yeah, I've got high hopes because I think this film and this series is pretty fondly remembered by a lot of people.
The first 2 of this series, anyway.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, and I want to get that the meat behind the visuals that I have, because the visual that I have is not flattering, which is you know. Kind of like the milquetoast Dragon Ball Z, like whenever he needs a new power, he has it kind of thing.
That is the perfect description of Dragon Ball Z. That's literally like every season was like, and now he's a new level of Super Saiyan that we never knew existed.
Exactly. But yeah, that's my expectations. I think it'll be good, and I'm mostly just excited to experience it finally.
All right. Sam, what do you think? Never seen it, right?
Correct. Question. Is this the first superhero movie?
No, I don't think that's true.
I'm Googling it.
I'm having a hard time thinking of another movie. Probably the first big mainstream movie. There was a movie version of the 1966 Batman TV series.
Okay.
But that was more a spinoff of the TV show. I would bet there was a Shadow movie. I'm sure there were Lone Ranger movies, if you count that.
Yeah.
But as far as like our big blockbuster movies, I'm not going to say it was the first, but it was definitely a groundbreaker.
Yeah. Well, I'm mostly really excited to see kind of the roots of these movies. And I really want to see like what sort of creative things stuck and what things evolved with the time. So, 1970 something, I'm sure people watched, superhero movies much differently than we watch them today. So I'm hoping that it's more like character focused and more about like him as a character and like the struggles that he has to go through, as opposed to like fight, action, guns, explosions sort of thing. So that's my prediction, my hope, I guess.
Okay. Well, so then the next question, are any of you planning along with me to read some of the new comic book?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to say yes, but I have a really bad commitment issue with books. So
You've got an intense day job. I think by the time Comic-Con happens, there will have been 3, maybe 4 issues of the new Man of Steel. I don't think we should try and focus on the other books because those are launching, I think, in late July. But yeah, if you guys want to get on board with that, I would encourage you to check out the first few issues of Man of Steel. Make sure it's the new one by Brian Michael Bendis. You can use the Comixology app to buy it digitally if you want to do that. But I wonder if you guys, your relationship with comic books and if you have any particular expectations there.
Sam, have you read comics?
I have not read a comic. I'm sorry.
Wow. Never read a comic book.
That's
Only
kind
to
of
me, then.
crazy considering you're the art student. Brett went to art school too, but That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Not
I don't
even
know.
like manga or...
No, never was into anime.
I just have like, I guess, a comment. Because I haven't read comics in many years, and I think it's what I remember the most about the Spider-Man comics that I love, and I still had one of the books on the bookshelf here that I had from when I was younger, and it's. It's weird that we do a movie podcast, and I feel like movies are the inferior medium to expressing like character ideas.
Interesting.
Because I feel like I get such a better image of what a character is through reading, and comics added a second layer to that, where you got to see their reactions and the characters in motion, but you were still left with your own like imagination to fill in the ways in which what they were doing was relevant to you.
I like that.
Yeah, I didn't read much American comics. I read a little. Actually, Deadpool was the one I read a few issues of. And I read some Batman, but mostly I was into graphic novels and manga and anime and all that. So, but it was the same sort of thing where you had a visual with the text, and you also had several issues to sort of experience a character, and like, you have a much longer time frame for character development with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the long-running nature of a comic book gives them an opportunity to do more experimentation and do more crazy ideas, where movies have this burden to be more focused on the core themes of a topic.
Yeah, there's only so much change a character can have in a movie,
Yeah.
But that's why things like Game of Thrones and Westworld are so popular, because it's telling the story of these characters and much longer character development.
Yeah, you get much more time in a TV series or a book or something like that. Well, yeah, I mean, if you guys are up for it, it'll be interesting to talk a little bit about the book as well, and maybe some of our friends at Comic-Con will have something to say about that. Well, yeah, thanks for indulging my soapbox about Superman, and now we'll check out the movie and fast forward to San Diego and see how everybody feels about it.
Boop-a-doop. Boop-a-doop, boop-a-boop. Boop-a-doop, boop-a-boop. Da-da-da-dun-dun-dun. Da-da-da-da-da. Superman. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. If you're a woman falling from a building, look out. Okay, are you rolling?
Yeah, we're always rolling.
Oh,
Fix
okay.
it in post.
Well, we're at Comic-Con, you guys. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's get right out in front of the cool thing here. Mitch is with us. You want to be on the recording, Mitch?
I would love to be on the recording.
We've heard so much from you on Twitter, on Facebook. It's super cool to have you here in person.
Yeah, it's super cool. I saw the air quotes. You're sitting there like, this guy will not leave us alone. We might as well just invite him out, see if he wants to come and join us, and then he'll be out of our hair, right?
I mean, this whole thing was just for you, Mitch.
All right.
Just so we could, finally be like, God, get rid of that guy.
Get rid of him.
But you were coming to Comic-Con anyway, and it just, it worked out. It's cool to talk to people who are into the stuff we're into and who are at Comic-Con as well.
And I'm glad to meet up with the people that I really do enjoy listening to. Your podcast, one of the best ones I listen to every other week. But yeah, it's great. You guys announced that you were going to be here doing a meetup. I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, it's rad. You're like the community leader on the internet there.
I mean, I see things. I like to try and spark up conversations. Not too many people that I know that I can go and talk about with movies, especially older movies that, are going to at least have something to say back.
Well, it's good because you've seen the amount of effort we put into it. So.
Can we acknowledge this badass beaker rolling up on us? Look at this guy.
Oh, my God.
That guy did some work.
That's just a full roll of paper on someone's head.
We haven't seen a lot of cosplay compared to other years, but the cosplay I see is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's people put in the effort, and when you come across the ones that put in the best effort, it's great.
So, I saw Mitch coming because you're wearing the Red Son of Krypton t-shirt. We'll probably have pictures on Twitter. So are you a big Superman guy?
I am a big Superman guy. Superman was my first comic book superhero. I have the tattoos to appreciate him. I have the t-shirts, I love the movies, even if they are hit and miss a lot of times.
Those
They
people are
also
excited
love
about
Superman.
the movies.
Wait, okay, I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
These people are trying to save Timeless again. The show was canceled at NBC once. They saved it, came back for a second season, it got canceled again. They're trying to bring it back for a third season.
Is that what they're doing?
And there's helicopters, and I've seen airplanes pulling signs. There's a helicopter pulling a sign in the sky that says "Save Timeless."
Yep.
How much money does it cost to rent out helicopters?
Who's got this? Is it the people making the show? Do you think?
I think I saw it was like not that much money to rent one of those helicopter guys.
Well, fair enough.
I just thought if they've got helicopter cash, don't they have like production cash? Maybe it's not the same. So, did you happen to watch the 1978 Superman before coming out here, or it's just like really fresh in your memory, or where do you stand on that movie?
Okay, so I did watch it in preparation because I knew I was going to come out here and talk to you all.
Good job. The one person doing the podcast right. I don't know how many people actually watch the movies in between.
I'm not gonna lie. I usually don't because they are usually pretty fresh in my mind already.
Good.
But
Well,
78
yeah.
Superman had been a while since I watched it again. It's still kind of the same place for me. I love the tone that movie sets. I love the aesthetic and the way that they represent Superman. The dialogue and stuff is probably left best in the 70s. Like a lot of that stuff, and I don't know. I thought it was corny when I first saw it. I still think it's a little corny, but I still love Superman, so.
I feel ya. I feel ya.
It looks like Ash has stuff to say. Like, I do have stuff to say, but I feel like I said a lot in the first half of this episode. And we haven't talked. We've all watched it recently. We haven't talked since. We've intentionally
been hanging out all week and not saying anything.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've watched the movie independent of each other.
Well, I did have the privilege of rewatching the movie with Bret. And laughing at all the things that he thought was ridiculous that I also was like, right?
What would one of those be? Say, Jim, that is one bad outfit.
Maybe. It was more like the total lack of understanding of how time works, but that's okay.
You're talking about the rolling back time.
Oh, yeah.
That was... There were
This is
several
forbidden.
things that didn't make any sense logically in this movie.
In my notes, I just wrote, turning back time? Nope. Nope. No.
I did love how in the beginning of the film that the punishment for those people was just to become like an album cover, apparently.
Now, here's a problem that you kind of have to watch Superman and Superman 2 back to back to get that.
Somebody told me this. They're like, you just watched the first one. You need to watch the second one. And I was like, but it's for a thing. And I don't know.
It's just the second one. You have to watch the second one as the Donner cut because Richard Donner got taken off midway through the movie or midway through editing. And
well, you were shooting both of them at the same time.
Right, yeah.
I looked this up a little bit. Hold on. I got it. My consumption.
Yeah, Ash is
like
sick
super
at
sick,
Comic-Con
guys.
here, spreading the plague.
Yeah,
I'm
she's spreading
doing
the con
this for
crud.
you. I'm suffering. Yeah, I looked it up. Like they were shooting the movies at the same time, and he got fired from Superman 2. So he's like he shot more than half of the movie, which is why he like should be the director. And then so the other director had to come in and reshoot close-up shots. So if you watch Superman 2, you'll notice that the close-up shots of the characters are different, but the close-up shots were the easiest thing for him to reshoot because apparently legally a director has to shoot at least 50 or more % of the film to be labeled as the director.
That seems
and that's
like
why Richard Donner isn't the director on that film.
professional cheating.
It is. It totally is professional cheating.
40 years later, we have the same problems with Justice League, with another Superman property or DC property. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, and it really, that was a big factor, that percentage thing of who shoots what percentage of the movie to decide whether Snyder or Whedon got the director credit on Justice League. And it's interesting you said 50, and I don't know if it's changed over time, because I feel like it's a different percentage for Justice League.
It might have.
Yeah.
It might have been an old article.
The other really interesting thing in Superman 2 is Marlon Brando took a walk because of this bullshit. So anything that had been written as a, like, the Fortress of Solitude projection of Jor-El became Lara. Like, they were able to get her, but they couldn't get Brando.
Can we talk about Marlon Brando in this movie?
Krypton? Yeah, Krypton. And was that a British accent?
Ooh.
Was that what he was trying to do?
It might have been what he was trying to do.
It was, okay. First off, worst performance probably of all time.
Totally.
And second off, do you know how much money he got paid to do that film?
He was number one billed on the film.
It was like $3.7 million in the 70s to phone in a performance where literally his lines were written on cards around the set.
And he did such a bad job.
A horrible job.
My
But it was a marketing tool,
Claire.
and I think it worked.
You're like,
it
what?
was a Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando movie.
What's his name? Claire. Like, it's, dude, come on, seriously.
I just can't believe he got paid 3.7, or I think it's 3 point something million. Don't at me. I don't care. It was too much money.
Do you think that's like we're making, this is 1978, we're making a comic book movie, we need something to legitimize it, so bring in Hackman and Brando?
Absolutely no question. The other thing I'd heard was that Gene Hackman refused to go bald. Absolutely refused. And I guess
So that's why they did the gag with the...
so he bent at the very end to do, like, for that second in the prison. But for the rest of the movie, he's doing different wigs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more important to them to have Gene Hackman than to have Lex Luthor bald.
Really?
I mean, it's interesting how our, like, story tastes have changed. Because nowadays, like, superhero movies are so popular, you'd be like, we'll just get whoever. Like, that's not true to the villain.
Yeah.
And then back then, it was like one of the first superhero movies. And they're like, guys, we got to sell this to the normal people.
And it's
Right.
really sad, too, because, like, I mean, I like Gene Hackman. He's great.
And so good in this movie.
No.
So good in this movie.
Not good in this movie.
He spoke volumes with his eyes. When Otis would do something dumb, the things that Gene Hackman did with his eyes were incredible.
So I have a question for you then, Nick. What was the genre of this movie?
Yes, that's a good question because
Okay.
like his
interesting.
performance was not that of a villain. His performance was that of the comedic relief.
Yeah, they definitely played Lex Luthor very funny. I think Otis was really the comic relief.
But they're routine together.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
he's the
they-
straight
they-
man in the comic relief, but like he is playing the
And
comic
I think they
relief.
made an intentional move to try to make it light and funny, which I think is good and something that's missing from some of our modern DC
But I
movies.
think that was a bad choice because I never felt like he was a scary villain and I never felt like he was a threat when I saw the film.
And I think they were definitely going for a Silver Age version of Lex Luthor, where the whole real estate scam or real estate plot is the one that would definitely be something that version of Lex Luthor, because the Silver Age comic books are the ones that are very much, Robin and Batman and Superman all sitting on a battleship waving at the soldiers, kind of. That's just that version of the comic books were. So I think that's why you have that version of Lex Luthor. Going after, Dark Knight Returns, we get much darker or more serious characters in all our comic books.
This is interesting. So this was a true to the comics.
It's a 4-color world. Imagine, I think of the cover where Captain America punches Hitler. It's the 4-color world.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, also, too, going back to, like, Tim Burton's Batman, now, with the perspective of Christopher Nolan, it looks cheesy, and it looks kind of campy and, like, fun and too bright. But comparatively, it was the darkest Batman or the darkest
At the
superhero
time.
movie at the time. Yeah.
But can't you see a progression, draw a line? Like, there's 1978 Superman, then there's Tim Burton's Batman, then there's Chris Nolan's Batman. You can see a progression, a change of tone in movies like this.
Yeah, I just, from a modern day perspective, from someone who's never seen the film before, like, it just didn't work for me because it never felt like there were much stakes and like there was really a bad guy.
I think what got in my way was obviously Lex Luthor, but his constantly need to announce that he was a criminal.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
It was
that's because
ridiculous.
he wasn't that intimidating.
So to get on board with the Lex Luthor hate, it really bugged me how, like, he's supposed to be the super genius, but he put together, he knew exactly where Krypton was. He knew that a rock from Krypton would kill Superman.
Yeah.
Like,
how do you?
what are you basing this? Where did you get any of this information?
This is what I mean by like the logic in this movie. Just like some of it just doesn't make any sense.
And I don't want to keep playing this note, but if you watch the two movies together, you know, those three in the Phantom Zone are really the villain, and that works.
Because I like there's like that montage. Okay, here's my quick recap of the film. The first 47 minutes of this movie were so slow and boring, in my opinion. And I think they could have been 10 minutes. And then when he got to like New York and he's like saving people, I was like, okay, this is cool. I like this. But then we got into this like batshit crazy plan to like make half of California, which I don't even know if that would happen.
That was on the ballot this year.
I know. I thought about that. I was like, it's like his evil plan to split up California. Right down that same line.
Oh my God, that guy is actually literally Lex Luthor in real life. Holy shit.
No, of course it doesn't make sense. It's a comic book movie.
Right. But I was like, there was a little bit of more like rough around the edges realism with like the helicopter thing that then sort of went away with this slapstick, like almost Benny Hall-esque, like, we're going to stop the military brigade and we're going to pretend there was a car accident with this hot lady.
But keep in mind, like that montage of him, like you're seeing the helicopter, Air Force One, but he saved a kitty from a tree, and the mother slaps the little girl for lying about it.
That was dark.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It's goofy, cheesy stuff.
Yeah. But I liked that the beginning took time. It felt very cinematic.
I'm so with you on that.
And it's not something that they do in superhero movies anymore. You know, it's action, 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 and it's overwhelming and it's too much sensory overload. I love that we got to kind of feel these characters and like,
and it felt like I kept feeling like this has got a tone of never-ending story. That's what I was getting from it.
Well, so like a modern thing that was like that, and I can never remember the name of the guy that was in the second most recent Spider-Man reboot.
Oh, Garfield.
Yeah, and that his origin story sequence was, I think, my favorite Spider-Man origin story sequence. And you can disagree if you want, Mr. Cringeface, Nick.
No, Peter Parker should not be cool. That's the unforgivable mistake in those movies.
But they spent a lot of time on him, like, figuring out his life with the powers. And that was kind of what it felt like they were leading into with the Superman thing. But they kind of just dropped it. Like, his friends drive away, and then that is the end of Superman actually being Clark Kent, like, the childhood part. And it's just like, I kind of really wanted more of that backstory.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like that idea. It was that there were really only like 3 scenes, and they took 47 minutes.
Like, his beating them there to the house, and he's just like, hey guys, and they're like, how the fuck did you get here, Clark? Like, that was real good.
And that's, I think somebody saw that and said, let's make a TV series out of this.
Yeah.
Like, that's Smallville.
Yeah.
Oh. I've never seen Smallville.
I honestly, what I wanted baby Superman, the show, like the hijinks.
Superman baby.
When he like lifts the car up, because the jack falls over, I was like, this is what I want to see. I want to see hijinks of baby Superman.
Would it be anything like Baby Muppets?
Probably not, because he would have superpowers.
It's more like just like Jack from The Incredibles.
All right.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, I just felt like the pacing of this film is definitely a 70s pacing film.
What about these beautiful crane shots of the wheat
the
fields?
cinematography is beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. The cinematography and the music is great, even though Brett and I had this discussion when he was watching it that it felt very Star Wars-y.
Yes.
Oh, it was the same time period. John Williams was being John Williams for sure.
It was 1 year out from A New Hope.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But my one comment about the music is like, it was beautiful and very cinematic, but sometimes it was too dramatic for what was on screen.
Yeah.
Like we're zooming into the town on Krypton and nothing's happening, and it's like,
I love that.
It's like, what? What's happening?
I feel like that accomplished the goal. It gave me the majesty of the scene, even though what was being shot was just a slow shot of a model.
Yeah.
It worked for me, but I understand if it didn't work for you.
Yeah. That whole everything on Krypton? Is that
Krypton.
okay?
Krypton.
Krypton. I just
Crip walking.
so. I hated all of that. I'm sorry. The like shiny aluminum foil outfits. What was going on? I will say, I do want to know how they achieved that effect because it was very interesting.
I actually know.
Okay.
So they're wearing, think of your bicycle pedals that have that reflective thing on it.
Yes. Okay.
So those suits were made of that.
Okay.
And they were blasting them with light.
With lights.
From
That's what I
behind the
thought
camera.
it was. So it really was aluminum
Reflective.
foil outfits,
That's
basically.
a simplified way of saying it.
Now, I disagree with Ash on this. I thought those costumes were dope.
Yeah.
I dug it.
Like, it's exactly that, like, the retro futurism, like...
Totally.
I think I would have liked them a lot better if they didn't look all crinkly like tinfoil. That was the thing for me. Like, if they just had the reflective thing, cool. But they, like, literally looked like someone crumpled up tinfoil and, like, molded it around them. That was the part that I was, like, not... You look like a sandwich someone's saving for later. So...
They looked kind of like that baby
being
sun from
hosed.
Teletubbies.
Yeah. Okay.
You know how it's all like bright and sunny?
Yeah.
So here's the thing that kept haunting me as I was watching that whole sequence. All of the village elders of Krypton think that Jor-El's theories are dumb, and Jor-El believes them. So he puts his baby into this spaceship and launches him. What if Jor-El was wrong, and he just shot his baby into space?
I was totally thinking that.
Well, the thing I was thinking was, like, why the fuck is he not going with them? Because, like, the planet's going to explode. There's no consequences if you tell them, yeah, I'm not leaving the planet, and then you do.
He could either record 3 years of audiobooks for his son to listen to on the flight, or pack his own bag.
Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why? I couldn't understand why. I'm sorry.
Also, he was like, the planet will blow up within 30 days. And then 30 seconds later, the planet was blowing up.
Well, I think in film editing, you can skip some time.
What? They do that?
But it didn't feel edited to, like, imply that there was more time.
Yeah, I mean...
No, yeah, I do agree.
All the things you guys are saying are accurate, but then it's the tone of a comic book. And
Yeah.
all these things work for me. Like,
Is this what the new Krypton thing is going to be? Where it's going to be like, the planet's going to explode, and then there's like a real investigation into if the planet's going to explode?
here's my working theory. I don't know much about this new Krypton show, but in Man of Steel, the newer Superman movie, they had Russell Crowe as Jor-El, action Jor-El. That's my guess, is that's what this Krypton TV show is going to be about. I don't know. Do you know anything about it?
I do watch it. So in this new Krypton show, they're definitely taking from the Krypton you saw in the Man of Steel with Russell Crowe. The idea is that you're following the story of Kal-El's grandfather, so Jor-El's father, and the world back then, or Krypton back then, is more faith-based as opposed to science-based that we see when Jor-El is trying to explain, hey, our planet's about to blow up. So what you have is a time traveler from the future by the name of Adam Strange comes back to past Krypton to say, hey, you need to let your planet explode, or else your grandson is never going to go to Earth and then save the rest of the universe. So that's kind of what that show is about.
Is the rest of the universe just Earth? Because we think we're the center of the universe?
Yes and no. I mean, you got things like Doomsday. If he were to, finish off if he finished off Earth, he'd go to the next planet and kill that. So
Got it. Okay.
Was anybody sitting here thinking, where's the Green Lantern Corps? Can't they come and like give them some information here?
Yeah, is that plot canon? Like,
which one?
the plot of the new show.
Of the new show? It's not canon in the comic books, but I mean, I can see where they're trying to mix it into what is now being called the world of DC.
Yeah.
And that's like, is the Gotham TV show canon? Like, no, they're just trying to build stuff up because they want to make a Batman show, but they don't want to put Batman in it. They want to make a Superman show, but not put Superman in it. Oh, they can do a Supergirl show. They can do a Flash show, even though there's a Flash in a movie somewhere. Hey, speaking of Flash.
Dalex Miller.
Dalex is here, everyone. You know Dalex from other episodes.
Yes.
Like the Pokemon. Yeah.
Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all.
Dalex gone.
You're coming on theme with your Krypton bag. We were just talking about this.
Yes, Dalex has a Krypton bag.
It's not mine. This is something I've sort of commandeered from somebody that Nick knows.
Dalex has been on the show before. Mitch, first time on the show. Mitch is a often contributor to our Facebook and Twitter conversations.
Just say super fan is what you want. A super annoying fan, that's all.
He's our super fan.
It's
hey,
not
Dalex,
just B team. You're B team leader.
do you have thoughts on Superman? Have you seen the movie recently?
I have never seen the Richard Donner Superman.
What are you doing here?
Set the microphone
Well, I
down.
like
Get
you
out,
guys,
Dalex.
and I was hoping we could still be friends. I don't know.
You're done.
All right.
Actually, as far as superhero movies go, it's not very gruesome, which I appreciate.
No, it's lighthearted. It's that 4-color world. It's
Although, can I
it's
say-
a world with joy in it, which has been
Superman-
sucked out of the newer Superman
Oh,
movies.
Nick, you're
Superman
I can
in this
tell
movie.
you're so close to it's so close to your heart here, huh?
He was
so
he was a
close.
very, very, very horny Superman.
Oh, yes.
Wait a minute,
Yes.
which one?
This one.
This one, he was the
Lying
horniest.
on ladies' panties.
I mean,
Yeah, he's
to be
like-
fair,
He's like, let me. I can see through
yeah,
your
she
clothes.
did.
She asked him what color her
Lois
underwear
was ready to jump
And
his bones
He
way
was
before he thought
not
about it.
hesitant in answering.
Hey,
He was like, well, you're standing behind lead, so I can't see right now.
he needed to prove he has powers. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what she asked. She
Also-
would have asked,
Yeah.
what's...
And then they talk
heart
for like
doing?
3 more minutes, and then she takes a step back, and he's like, pink, by the way.
But also, it shows what a gentleman he was, because he could have done it the whole time, and he didn't do it until she asked.
See, I think a true gentleman would have politely declined to answer that question.
You know?
And I feel like, to me, you talk about Superman not being treated like correctly. I didn't feel like that was a Superman thing to do. I think he should have politely,
which is a lot more
declined.
than fucking
And then
James
she wrote
Bond
a whole
got.
space poem about him.
I want to talk about the worst part of the movie.
Oh, so
Can you read my mind?
do you know about this? That was supposed to be a musical segment. She was supposed to be singing
Oh wow!
those words, but Richard Donner last minute was like, "No, we're just going to have her talk
that
it."
probably would have
but
been
it
worse.
rhymed.
Because it would have been awful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
apparently it is a song that was released a year later that actually was fairly successful. So it's a real song you can look up.
Superman.
But
That
it's
sounds pretty great.
really creepy.
Superman.
I would have loved that version.
Oh yeah, that line. He's such a Superman is exactly the line of in the Han Solo movie. Who are your people? I'm alone. Okay, you're Han Solo. It's the same thing, and I hate it. And I think maybe the Han Solo movie took that from Superman.
And was that like a common thing back then? Because it kind of was a little bit of a shucks golly gee, what a super swell guy. Like,
Yeah.
after she did this, I mean, how long was that scene? It felt like it went on forever.
It
And
went
she's
on
just
for a
like,
long ass
I
time.
am so hot for you, Superman. Take me home. And, oh, you're so super. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, first off,
A lot of these scenes
I don't
went on
blame her.
forever.
He was pretty hot looking. I'm not gonna lie.
He definitely filled out that suit for sure.
Yeah, and that was
I w-
pre-CG.
He
So
is
There
very
was
charming.
no CG.
I would say Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves? Yes?
yeah.
Christopher Reeve.
Okay.
I don't think there's an S at the end.
Really? I thought there was.
Reeves?
Christopher Reeves.
Reeves.
Or is it the other way around?
I don't know.
I
how
thought it was
how does
Reeves.
no one
I don't know.
this?
Berenstein. We'll
Googling
never
now.
know.
He is very charming, and I thought he was fantastic. And you said, Nick, earlier we were having a conversation about this, where you said that he dubbed over the
Yes,
the
I
other
love
actors,
this.
the younger
the
actor?
teenage Clark Kent, his voice was just ADR of Christopher Reeve's voice, which makes it so perfect the way.
There's no S. Sorry.
Okay, but it would have been George Reeves.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really makes you immediately lock into that character and think it's the same character because it's Christopher Reeve's voice dubbed into this guy's performance.
Yeah.
And I think an amazing bit of acting after the poem scene, Superman flies off, Clark Kent comes and knocks on the door. That was a beautiful piece of acting.
Oh.
The way he's kind of slouching down, he's very timid and nervous, but that moment where he takes off his glasses and becomes Superman, and he catches himself and says, no, I can't be that guy right now. And
Yeah.
he shrinks back into Clark Kent. That was a beautiful performance.
That was pretty
That was a great scene.
Yeah.
Honestly, I want to say that is probably one of the best things about that version of Superman or of the Superman 78 is that we get that transformation from Clark Kent to Superman and seeing how there is something different between the two characters. And maybe you can see in a stretch of why Lois can't tell the difference between the two. I mean, one character is so larger than life, stands up straight, saves the world. The other one is this timid reporter that can barely get 2 words out. But I just love that part when his clothes are so ill-fitting as Clark Kent, and the glasses are super overdone, and you can't do that in the modern Superman because the fashion won't allow that. It seems like the modern day fashion won't allow that. So you have Clark Kent in tiny glasses that don't really obscure his face, and really tight clothing. Henry Cavill's just a huge dude though, so I mean, it's understandable.
I love in that same scene, I love that moment where she's so dazed, that she's not even paying attention to him. And she's like, "That's Clark, nice," or whatever, as she goes out the door.
Which is great as Lois. She is pretty self-absorbed.
Yeah.
And
I
that
actually
works.
didn't like her.
Oh, yeah, I've always hated Lois. I
Margot
like
Kidder
the
didn't do it
character
for you.
in the story.
You what?
Margot Kidder didn't do it for you.
No, not at all.
Oh.
I love the character in the story, but if I had to spend time with that person, fuck her.
Oh, but okay, think of this: the chick from Hudsucker Proxy, her as Lois Lane. Good, right?
Did any of you think that she could easily be played by Rashida Jones if they did a reboot?
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Sure.
She
that would
looked
be
Likeable,
Ooh.
likeable, so likable.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I kept wanting her to be Rashida Jones.
Yeah, and I get that she's a career woman. That's fine. I'm not against that. I'm a career woman. I don't want kids either, but I just
girl.
wish she was a little bit more likable.
I just felt she kind of switched, in the beginning she was pretty cool. She was like, "I'm about my career, whatever, dude, trying to hit on me, I don't have time for you." And then she gets mugged and she kicks the guy's gun out of his hand. I was like, this is an awesome character. The minute Superman came in, she was like, I was like, nope, over it. Done.
Yeah, she does get kind of weak in the knees there.
Yeah, and then she suddenly needed to be saved all the time. I don't know.
You think that was on accident?
Yeah, but I was gonna say, a dude comes flying up, catches you as you're falling to your death. You're probably gonna make an instant bond with him and want him to be around, I would assume.
All
Did we
right,
talk about
fair.
how fucking gruesome
But
that buried alive thing was?
Oh, yeah.
That's such a trope though of women that I'm not cool with, is that just because some dude saved us, we're instantly in love with him.
Yeah.
That's not true, guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, 4-color world.
Yeah.
But Brett, I really like this scene you're talking about. You're watching a movie like this and nobody's going to die. Superman's going to save them. And that was gut-wrenching to sit there and watch Lois die. And the thing that I love so much is he pulls the car out, he sees her, and then just without hesitation, without any stress, just rips the door off of the car and throws it across the desert. Mm-hmm. And just that speed of that was amazing.
Yeah, that was great. Every part of that was fantastic, and up until the yell, and then and then everything after that was a super goof.
I don't know. I think mine did yell.
Agree.
I was really feeling it, and I was like, "Oh no! This is crushing," because this was such a lighthearted movie until right now, and I don't know if it
Got too dark too quick.
Yeah,
I actually agree. I liked the scene where she died, and because it was the one thing in the movie that I didn't find predictable, and I was like, oh shit, she's really dead. Wow. And then he just reverses it, and I was like, I feel like this would have been more powerful and impactful if she stayed dead.
Well,
and this was his motivation for wanting to stop all the bad guys in the future,
what did he reverse?
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell because all of the other things he did during that period of time when she was dying still got done.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense at all.
Another guest just showed up.
Hello.
This is Marshall
Hi.
Vandruff.
Hi, Marshall.
I've told you about him a little bit. Marshall was Sam and my college teacher back when we were in art school, and he's a very, very cool dude.
I have a mic in my hand, and I'm sorry I'm coming in on this after you guys have already talked, and so I don't have any context, which makes me the outsider. I don't know whether you've
Well, we were just talking about how it makes no sense that Superman turned time back, but everything else was still the same except for Lois.
You know we're talking about Superman, right?
I know that you're talking about Superman. I saw it in the theater, and when it came out, it was double bill with Mary Poppins, and I watched it over and over because we were convinced that at that time, this was before computer graphics, that everything that you could imagine could be done in front of the screen because of the way the sun looked so real and all that. But yes, going around the Earth at super speed and making it revolve backward and reversing time was one of those refrigerator moments afterwards. Well, how did
you? Yeah, what are we supposed to believe here? Is it the physical reversal of the spin of the planet that changes time?
It's one of those like Prometheus effect things, like you watch it and you're like, okay, yeah. And then every second after that you think about it, it's just like, no.
There was a minute when I was like maybe 6 years old when somebody explained time zones to me where I thought, well, if I fly backwards in an airplane against the flow of the time zones, I can go into the past. No, I was 6, Like, is that what's happening there?
Can we talk about like how much physics havoc he caused on our planet here?
Oh yeah, we would all be dead.
Planet stopped spinning.
He killed the entire planet.
Yes.
But
that's why it's forbidden.
Yes.
But it's. I mean, from what I understand, they've come out and said after the movie is that the planet itself isn't going backwards. He's going so fast that he's going back in time. The visual that you're seeing is just for visual, just so that we know what's going on.
But the visual was that the planet spun backwards.
Yeah,
right. But you're understanding that you're going back in time.
They have to explain it to us Earthlings who are not as smart as the Kryptonians.
Who explained it?
I don't know. Richard Donner, the director.
Well, then that sounds like a poor excuse of bad directing.
I don't know. I kind of am willing to buy that. Right. I'm willing to buy that more. Like, Superman can travel back in time, not so much that he reversed time on the entirety of the planet.
Because that would be terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I get clarity on one thing you said, Marshall? You called it a refrigerator moment. Is that because it references Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? And
I didn't even think of that. I got refrigerator moment from a friend, John Perez, who said that after the movie's over and you go to the refrigerator for a beer, you say, hey, wait a second. And it didn't occur to you while you were watching it. It did occur to us. That wasn't a refrigerator moment. That was one of those ones that occurred to us
I was thinking Indiana Jones as well, and I was like, that is such a great phrase. I'm going to use that from now on. That's like Bret's battleshipping. Bret will use
What is saddle shipping?
Have you seen the movie
Everybody
Battleship?
Get comfortable.
Okay. Every single thing they say in the movie is scientifically inaccurate. From beginning to end, the opening line of the movie is... what was it? 3 years ago, we sent a message into space to a system that was 10 light years away. 6 months later, we heard back. And it's like, well, then they were on their way, dude. Like,
so you're saying the movie where they drift a battleship,
they drift a battleship,
like Tokyo drifted, is scientifically inaccurate? I can't believe it.
It's wild. It's wild.
Now, I may be saying something you guys already know, but I recently read that the refrigerator in Crystal Skull was an idea that they originally had for Back to the Future. That's how Marty got back.
What?
In the original draft of the script.
Ugh.
And it didn't quite work for them, but they kind of stuck it in their back pocket.
Oh.
And I guess, because Spielberg was a producer on Back to the Future, so I guess he had part in that idea.
Spielberg took responsibility for it. He said that he was the one who had that idea, and he apologized for it.
Spielberg?
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never seen it. I've only heard enough about it to know that I didn't want to.
Oh, it's rough in Indiana Jones.
It's not worth it. Give it. I do want to talk about, even though I've ranted an awful lot about this film, I thought the flying effects were really cool and well done.
When this movie came out, the big tagline was, you will believe a man can fly.
I totally believed it.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
and
they
not
did a
just
great
the flying,
job.
but the landing.
Yeah.
Was really smooth.
Yeah, I think there was like exactly one shot where I was like, okay, that one looks bad. And then the rest of the time, I didn't think about it. I was like, I feel like this is great. Just watching this whole
running effect, like, I don't know how they did that, but
the running was rough.
I thought so too.
Like when he's racing the train?
It was definitely rough, but it was such an interesting, he wasn't moving like a human, which was interesting to me because he's not a human.
He's just taking some big ass steps.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know how they did it. Like, I was like, is it a high shutter speed? Is it like, was the train going really slow? Like, I don't know how they did that effect.
Something.
I mean, maybe, but like comping was not that advanced back then.
It definitely wasn't this, but my favorite fast running effect is in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Because what they did is they had this, basically a carpet, a really, really long carpet that they dragged behind a truck. So the truck is going, 30 miles an hour. Your apes are on this carpet running as fast as they can. So it looks like they're running across the ground super fast.
Oh, okay.
And that effect works really well.
Yeah,
but that wasn't this movie.
Have you seen the fast running effect in Baron Munchausen? Terry Gilliam's.
I've seen it. I don't remember it.
Oh, there
Refresh
was
us.
really amazing speed. I keep wanting to think that it was Eric Idle's character, but I might be wrong. It was going at incredible speed. It was very
and do you know how they did it?
I don't know how they got it, but I know that he was big on doing it in front of the camera and with the camera as much as it wasn't digital.
So can I bring up one thing about the flying?
Yeah.
The part.
No, Mitch, you're done.
Oh, okay, I'm leaving. No. The part when the Superman date with Lois, when he takes her flying too. How does that work with her arm? Like, does it?
Yeah, it was kind of
snap
Peter
off or
Pan-y
something?
a little bit.
And she was flying as long as there was any physical contact. Like, it was like fingertip to fingertip, and she had it.
Is it like magnets? Like they're connected so that the current goes through and then disconnect, and she just plummets to her death.
Oh,
the only thing I could figure was that like they were actually falling, but he was like playing it cool, so it seemed like she was still flying. But then when she let go and she just started falling faster, I guess it was different.
Are you saying Superman is Buzz Lightyear? He's just falling with style?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do love that moment of like he drops her and he's like, "All right, I fucked up. This could be a problem."
I like that with the helicopter too, when the helicopter's like coming crashing towards them and she starts screaming. He's like, it's cool,
I love that in this beautiful line. I've got you. You've got me. Who's got you?
Yeah.
I love that.
That was pretty great.
It's coming in late. It has an advantage. Can you synopsize what you've covered for your assessment of Superman?
I worship this movie, and Ash hates it.
I don't. Yeah, no, I probably hate it.
we talked a lot about the pacing in the beginning because you spend a lot of time on Krypton, you spend a lot of time on the farm, and those are slower sequences. We talked about how Gene Hackman is more funny than intimidating. Those were the big points.
Yeah. He was conceited, as I recall. Yeah, he was.
Yes.
Doesn't it give you a chill to be in the same room with me or something like that?
Although I do love that line. I put it in my notes where he's like watching Otis on the video. He's like, it's amazing that brain can generate enough power for those little legs.
I do like the line where he's like, it's like something about like, do you know what the number 200 has to do with the two of us?
Your weight, my IQ.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I love the Otisburg thing. Just the annoyance on Gene Hackman's face. Otisburg? It's like, Miss Desmaka has a little place. Otisburg?
I just
love
wish
this.
His like evil plan wasn't so lame. It just felt lame.
It felt like Rocky and Bullwinkle to me.
It felt too cartoony and
felt
lame.
Like Goldfinger.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. It
Like-
was like the worst version, the worst version of Goldfinger.
It was the real estate version of the Goldfinger plot.
That's true.
I think Goldfinger had a better plan. Like,
Yeah, I do too.
that could actually kind of work.
He wanted to blow up Fort Knox with nukes, so all the gold was irradiated, so that the gold he had would be worth more.
It'd
We
go up
thought
like
he was
10
going to
times.
steal the gold, but his plan was actually destroy the gold, so his gold was worth more. Not bad.
It certainly makes more sense. Like, to bank on the fact that a missile's gonna knock a state in half and, like, throw half of it into the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the four-color world.
I mean, but it is very similar, because his goal was to get rid of half of the land, so his land was worth more.
He was right about essentially his wild guess that a rock from space was going to kill Superman. So, like, I feel like he had every reason to trust his own calculations in that world.
He was kind of like the cartoony version of the guy from There Will Be Blood, buying up all the real estate that no one wanted, and then he was going to make it worth something.
Daniel Day-Lewis as Lex Luthor.
Ooh. Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Oh, my God. That would be amazing.
We're recasting.
Did you talk more about special effects?
No.
You love the running, you said.
I did like the running. I like the flying. I mean, the running was weird, but I liked that it was weird, I guess. I liked the flying. There was an interesting effect where when he goes to meet Lois Lane, and I didn't notice it till I rewatched it with Bret, where they're on the terrace. And at first I just thought it was just a backdrop behind her. And then I was
projection screen, isn't it?
I was like, oh my God, the cars are moving. And the lights are changing in the buildings.
And you see Superman fly in.
Yeah.
And then Christopher Reeve steps into frame.
So it was a projector.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
It was a cool effect. Because again, I don't think comping was that advanced yet for them to really...
And I really liked that effect. It was way better than if they had comped it.
Yeah.
Can I ask what's comping? Comping?
Oh. Comping is when you take, so you shoot an image on green screen, and then you can replace the background, or you can take that image and you can put it somewhere else, or you don't even have to do green screen. You could rotoscope by like cutting someone out.
The weather guy on the news channel, and it just his hair's all fuzzy and he doesn't quite look right.
That's comping.
The modern green screen, where green screen really wasn't usable at that point.
The entirety of the Marvel franchise.
Pretty much every movie you see nowadays has a majority of comping in it.
I mean, of course, it's done digitally now, so it is just more convincing.
I guess that's where I was getting. I mean, I understand green screen.
Yeah, that's just comping is the other.
Was another term
is the other word for how to complete the green screen process, basically.
Comping is taking the green screen shot footage and stitching it together in a believable way.
Okay.
I was 20 years old when it came out to the theater, and so it was a big deal. Everybody was going to see it for multiple reasons, but one of them was just see the best special effects anybody had ever done.
Yeah.
And so we watched it over and over, and we were impressed. However, it double billed at one point with Mary Poppins, and right after we watched Superman, we watched this 1964-ish or so version of Mary Poppins that had special effects of her going up and her going down. And we looked at each other and felt like these are better special effects because they were happening in a real three-dimensional world. I think where her shadow cast against the building is so you could tell that it was not composited. And as impressive as Superman was, you could tell that it was more than one piece of film. Even the graininess of it, I think they had to run through the camera a second time to make it happen.
Well, let's talk about what I think is the worst visual effect. When they had the green glowing data crystal, every time somebody picks it up, they're holding it with two hands all the way at the bottom of that crystal because they're probably holding some sort of flashlight apparatus to make this glow. Like if you picked up that crystal, you just pick it up with two fingers. But in this movie, they are gripping it with two whole hands at the base of the crystal.
The worst visual effect, in my opinion, was the shot of the planet exploding. And if you don't look at the planet exploding and instead you look to the left and look at the space behind it, you can clearly see the soundstage floor and the backdrop behind it fabric. Like when it explodes, it's so obvious.
You know, that did bother me that it was set up as the planet Krypton will explode. And the planet Krypton starts collapsing, earthquakes, they pull out, and the star explodes. What? I thought it was the planet, but the whole star exploded. In that scene.
I mean, in that scene was my worst special effect, was just everyone falling.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the horrible, 100 comps of people falling. And like by the time they got to the back ones, they were like fading in and out. And like they were just hoping you wouldn't notice.
So did the people who turned into a rock album, did they survive that explosion? Because they went out into space? Oh, Mitch is shaking his head. Yes.
Yeah, I mean the criminals, the three criminals, Zod, Ursa, and Nan, are in the Phantom Zone. They're in a completely different dimension.
Oh.
So...
This is where you find out I know nothing about anything comic book related.
That's where the second movie comes in.
These are the criticisms of grown-ups and a videographer or two. These are the criticisms of debunking it. Was there anything, I mean, you watched it as kids, right? You saw it when you were younger?
I am 40 years old. I watched it a week ago as a child. That's the only way to watch this movie. If I understand what you're leading up to, I agree. Like, you have to watch this as a child with that wonderment.
Yeah, which the Superman, the whole thing about Superman and the Phantom Zone and his Fortress of Solitude and all that stuff really affected me as a kid. I fantasized about it, thought about it all the time. It was an important mythology to me. So I got some of that back from the movie when I was 20, but it hasn't sustained. So I wondered how whether there was anything in you that really felt like it brought you back to the magic that you went to it for in the first place.
Every time. That bum 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 bum. Like
I
leading,
love that.
the curtains fade away, and that it's like a child reading a comic book.
Oh yeah, let me tell you something about the curtains fading away. When they had it at the theater, they had the comic book was vertical, and they had the curtains in there, so it looked like it was going to be a vertical movie. Now, this is my recollection of it. And then they pulled the curtains out, and the logo came out to show you this is not going to be gritty old stuff. This is going to be really new,
That's
amazing
fascinating
stuff.
because they did that with Galaxy Quest as well. And I didn't realize, because I didn't have the opportunity to see Superman in the theater, I didn't realize they stole that from Superman, but they did it with Galaxy Quest
My
too.
favorite experience like that, not with curtains, but was when we went to see The Dark Knight. I think it was the second one.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we're at the fancy theater in Hollywood.
They were hanging out at the ArcLight. Opening night.
And they're like robbing the bank in the beginning, you know? And then all of a sudden, as they're robbing the bank, the fire alarm goes off. And like these flashing lights start flashing in the theater, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is turning into an immersive experience!"
Yeah, you forget because the thing went off, the movie stopped, but it stopped at the second that they cut the power in the bank to rob the bank.
It was perfect.
And so the screen goes black, the alarms start going, and everyone's just
nobody
like,
moved.
What?
Because we all thought it was part of the movie.
But also nobody moved, and then the staff came in and said, "This is a fire alarm. You need to exit."
Hey guys, this is
and
real.
Still, no one got up.
People were like,
"We were
"No,
willing to
it's
die."
Batman." I'm not leaving.
That is how serious we are about superhero movies.
Yeah.
No, I'm just that serious about Batman.
That series about Nolan.
Yes, yeah.
So we should probably talk a little bit about the new comic book series. Have you been reading this, Mitch? Sorry, I lost your name for a second. Have you been reading the new series?
Yes, the new Man of Steel and Superman written by Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now Bret and I have read the first 6 issues of just Man of Steel,
So I've only
not
read
the Super.
first 5 issues of Man of Steel. I haven't gotten to Superman yet.
Which I'm glad, because I was real close to spoiling something. What are your thoughts on this new series? Have you been a Bendis reader in the past?
Yeah. All of his Marvel stuff, his Ultimate Marvel, his Ultimate Spider-Man, his Defenders is all great work over there. So when they made the big announcement that he was moving over to DC, I was like, this is going to be interesting. Like I do enjoy his writing.
So how do you guys feel about this book? Any big opinions?
As of right now, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm just more in the anticipation mode of where it's going to go. I don't know about this big bad that he created. That's the biggest problem for me right at this moment, but we'll see what happens.
I care more about the arson storyline than I care about this new big bad. It seems pretty cookie cutter to me.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But that might just be our window, like the doorway in. Here's your cookie cutter adventure, but underneath it, like, because that the fire thing is very much in the background, and even reading it kind of is like, oh, why is this in here? But like, it's gonna be a thing. So I kind of like the setup. Like they're starting off with the expected, but leading you into the new adventure. So, the things that I'm enjoying about this book, the main story itself is not so great, but these moments of Superman having this, I really want to punch my way out of this, but that's not the way to go. Things like that, where he has to kind of take a moment to think, this guy is baiting me, and if I move too fast and just punch stuff, then he's going to get what he needs. These moments where he has to stop himself, keep his power in check, and figure out the smart way to go. That's the stuff I'm enjoying. Yeah, that was definitely like an ongoing theme, and they make Lois say it a bunch of times too. Like, it's good. It's good. I like it.
I also
closing
like
thoughts.
Yeah, I guess there's not much to say on that. Like, there's not so much has happened.
I guess the question is, are you going to continue reading this particular series? Has it hooked you?
Ooh, good question.
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm in for a while. Yeah. I've got a pull box set up, and I've got them stacking up, so I'm in for now. I want to see where it goes.
Question: is the tone similar to the tone of Superman in this movie? Very much like happy-go-lucky, here to save the world, more positive.
Yes, but there's like a spectrum, and if you think like this movie is the most 4-color, happy, cheesy, these new books are on their way to that.
Okay.
But not over the top.
Gotcha.
The lights are on in this story.
It's apparent from issue 1 that
it's the thing you're thinking of, but except that it has a bad guy that's like a Post Nolan bad guy.
Okay.
He's just
kind of
a real grumpy dude.
But he's definitely a Boy Scout, 100% Boy Scout, which is the right way to go, I think.
The villain or Superman?
Superman.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, the villain is
no Boy Scout.
Yeah. He just wants every
was confused
person
too.
with Kryptonian blood dead.
Yeah.
So
A
that's a little
grumpy
harsh.
Boy
Yeah.
Scout villain.
Well, awesome. I think it's like the perfect time to start getting back to like that kind of happy superhero bit.
Yeah,
Like,
and if you are a comic book reader, like this is a good opportunity to get into that story arc. But let's finish up with the movie and kind of get our final thoughts here. Sam, having never seen it,
I really liked it. I think the bits are dated, but overall, it was super fun. I was really entertained, and it felt new because it was so different from what superhero movies are now, which is like all about the dark and the violence and the punching and the action. And this was about characters, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, there's very little punching.
Yeah.
If you
the door
feel like
got
that's
punched.
missing and you want it, check out Superman 2. Because you get to see Superman up against those 3 Kryptonian criminals. You get that part.
Well, like,
If you
I
want
didn't
that.
miss it. That's the thing. I'm totally
Okay.
on Sam's side with this. They set up this movie from the, I guess I don't want to say the first minute because it was 45 minutes, but they throw in early a problem that Superman cannot solve. And you're just like, oh, like, yeah, I guess, I mean, he can't just stop people from dying if they're going to die. And
Can we also talk about how he actually killed him too? It's his fault.
No, that's
No.
unfair.
It was totally
I don't buy
his
that.
fault. He was like,
But-
I'll race you, Dad.
he got like 3 steps in.
He shouldn't have done that though.
But I think that's perfect. Like, everybody says, oh, Superman's boring because he doesn't have a weakness. Oh, he has a weakness. Her name is Martha. You know, and that's so important. Like, he is Superman because Jonathan died and he couldn't stop it.
Yeah, and the real bad guy, well, I don't want to say the real bad guys, but the real problem of this movie was the earthquake and this stuff that he really can't do anything about, except they fucking made it so he could do something about it by going back in time. But, up until then, it was just like, these are problems that Superman can't fix, and, like, it's crushing him, and it's really good character stuff.
yeah.
And I really liked this movie a lot if it had ended in Lois's death.
Totally agree.
And even with the weird back in time stuff, I still really enjoyed it. And I guess I need to watch the second one for that to make sense.
If you want.
I will, because I enjoyed it that much. I want to watch the series now. But yeah.
Well, 3 and 4 kind of come off the rails.
Mitch is shaking his head.
Oh no.
I mean, if you want to just be a completist and get through it, you can get through 4. It's a hard watch, but it's a.
Can we turn it into a drinking game of some sort?
Well, how about this? Do you like Richard Pryor?
Yeah.
He's in part 3. He's one of the foils of part 3, kind of.
So for me, I'm not going to say much except my feelings that I over-articulated in the first half of the episode are still firm. I'm still into it. What about you, Ash? You were probably the most negative.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I like absolutely hate this movie because I think there are good parts in it. Like I think Christopher Reeve was great, and I think there are some really great visual effects, and there's some good scenes in this movie. Like I thought the scene where Lois died, like I totally agree with you, Bret. Like where
I felt it.
yeah, I felt it, and I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, and I wish she had stayed dead because I think it would have been more impactful and powerful, and it would have been like, oh, this is his real weakness, not a stupid rock, because like this is like a real serious thing that he can't prevent,
But then I guess we're creating like Nolan Batman if that happened, right?
But I also love Nolan Batman, so that's why I think for me this spectrum of the comic book look, I think as far as like the superhero spectrum goes, I don't like as you're calling it, the 4-color world. Like I'm not a fan of that style. I'm more of a fan of the Christopher Nolan style. So I liked the realism of that moment. I thought it was really intense and great and not like the rest of the film. Like I wanted more of that. But yeah, I think there's good things in here. I'm curious to see the second one, honestly, because I do want more of him fighting a super villain.
I've got a hypothesis question for you. Were the Nolan films like your entry into the comic book superhero zone?
They were not the first superhero movies I had ever seen, if that's your question.
I guess the first one's you were ever super into though.
You into X-Men or Spider-Man, essentially.
Yeah, there's Tim Burton Batman. Yeah, there's Tim Burton Batman, or there was the the Spider-Man series before that.
Or Iron Man. Never really did it for me because I don't think I like the cheese level that's going on. You know.
I gotcha.
Yeah, even though I like Tim Burton, but I just don't think I liked.
Yeah, because I'm gonna guess that the 4-color team is pro the older films. That was where you got in, and it's just
also people that have read the comics.
Oh yeah, and because we've all read the.
I mean, I never read a Superman comic before seeing that movie, but still, I approached it with a certain attitude of comic bookiness. Yeah.
That's interesting because so I've never read the comics, the Superman comics, and I just found myself going, "What the fuck is going on?" Several times through this movie, when the people turn into a musical album cover, I was like, what is happening? There's no explanation.
And that is a failing of the filmmakers.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to understand the Phantom Zone.
Space Jam.
You do if you watch both movies, but that's a flaw in the movie.
Yeah, so I found myself many times going, what is happening? And then I watched the movie twice because I saw it with Bret, and I was like, I'm still not sure why the planet is exploding. And I've seen this film twice in just the span of a couple of days. I still don't know why the planet exploded. There's just so many things that I'm like, what is happening? But why did he throw this thing and this big ice thing came out of nowhere? There's so much that I'm like, what is happening?
Fortress of Solitude.
It's House and Box.
But for somebody who doesn't know anything,
yeah, it's hard
to understand what's happening in this film. Anyway, that's just my side rant.
That's all right. So, Marshall, you joined us a little bit late, and I didn't really have you watched the movie recently?
No, and I'm sorry I haven't, but I didn't know about this podcast until just minutes ago.
No problem. We're just hanging out.
I did. I liked Superman more than all the other comic books growing up, and these included the ones that were from the previous era, the 1930s and 40s, but also the Neil Adams ones, the ones that came out in the 60s and 70s were ones I was reading. And we kind of wondered in 1978 how they would handle the truth, justice, and the American way, which was part of the TV thing. How are they going to handle it? And he did do it sarcastically, subtly, truth, justice, and the American way. He didn't mean it. And we all knew that was a way of not touting the American way to the world audience, and also didn't they do the telephone booth gag in there where there was...
Yeah, it's I'm not going in the phone booth.
Right,
yeah.
right.
I did like that. Because that is one of my limited pieces of information of Superman was I did pick up on that one.
You reminded me of something about knowing a comic book, knowing they're making a movie of the comic book and thinking, are they going to do this?
Yeah.
When they said they're going to make a Thor movie, I thought, is he going to hit people with a hammer? I don't want to see that in a movie. That's brutal. But I think they handled it well.
I really liked it at the time, and I think a lot of people did. And it was as true to the comic book as it needed to be. You're going to turn it into a movie. It's another thing. Also, it wasn't just the comic book; it was a TV show. Most people that didn't read the Superman comics, they just knew the TV show from the 60s.
And those amazing Fleischer cartoons.
Yes, and the Fleischer cartoons. Yes.
Yeah.
Was there a TV show first?
Yeah, in the 50s when we were talking about George Reeves. That was the 50s.
Got it.
And was there another TV show between then?
The Fleischer cartoons would have been Thursday because they closed down in about 1940-ish, 41.
So before this movie would have been the George Reeves show, the Fleischer cartoon, and that was okay.
Yeah, that was it. So we were all very pleased, and we had no notion of Christopher Nolan or Tim Burton. No notion at all of that. Nobody had come in and deconstructed them and made them more complex with counterpoints, and tortured and all that. So it was for its time. It was very good. And you are all the ones who are deciding whether it is held up or not.
Fair enough. So, Mitch, take us home. As a Superman fan, how did you feel about watching this movie again?
Well, as a Superman fan, I have to say that I think I felt the same way that Sam did. It's very outdated, but I have the parts that I'm just like, okay, that's Superman. That's what I'm looking for. That's the tone. That's the character. That's the feeling I'm trying to get from when I watched Superman on the big screen. You know what I mean? Like, I have gone back and rewatched Man of Steel, and I think, there's definitely problems with it, and it doesn't have the hope that I want when you're talking about Superman, but it's better than the rest of the DCEU. So we don't get an actual Superman in the DCEU until Justice League when he's coming back from the dead. Like that version of him is kind of the one that I've been looking for. It harkens back to Christopher Reeve. So, but the Christopher Reeves one, or Reeve, sorry, is that you have when his father died, when Pa Kent dies, and you'd already talked about it. It's something that he couldn't handle, he couldn't do anything about. But in that one, it's almost like him having a heart attack is a lot different than his dad telling him not to come save him. Like, he had the opportunity. He could have done something about it, and he chose not to because his father said not to. Whereas a heart attack, he didn't even know it was happening.
Yeah.
So
that was something I loved in Man of Steel.
That he decides not to save his father?
That they handled it that way, where it was just Kevin Costner saying, no,
okay,
you can't do this. And it was a very different way of handling, but I did like that.
Okay. I don't. I didn't.
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with you, Mitch. I like this idea that it's just this thing, because that's what life really is. Is like there's these moments where like fuck, you get in a car accident and like you weren't, you think it's not going to happen. Like there's this really great film, in my opinion, that's all about that. It's called Other People. And it's this movie with Molly Shannon. She's amazing, but it's about I forget his name. He's amazing too, the main actor guy. He was in the Star Trek Black Mirror. The Star Trek Black Mirror. What's his name?
I think
Fat Matt Damon.
Yeah. Yeah. The other Matt Damon.
Something Plemons. Jesse Plemons?
I think it was him. Anyway, I think that might have been him. It's a fantastic movie about the fact that like his mother gets cancer, and it's all about him and his family dealing with that. And it's like, there's nothing you can do. And it's the type of thing that you always see happen to other people. And so I do like that too, Mitch, where it's like, no, this is just a realism moment that he can't do anything about.
I definitely prefer what's in the 78 movie, but I like the idea of what's in the newer movie. Probably the only thing that I liked in the newer movie.
I like I said, I did enjoy the movie for what it was, and knowing that it's a 1978 movie.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thanks, guys, and whoever's those of you who are listening.
If anyone
to the
else
show,
is listening, since Mitch is here,
I mean, just want to say sorry about all the noise, but it's been a great time coming out here to Comic-Con.
I
hope it's worth the noise. But yeah, and it's cool to see you guys here at Comic-Con. We're having a great time. We've been doing a bunch of off-site stuff. The Good Place was really fun. I'm excited to see Jack Ryan, even though the actual event wasn't that great. But
what? It might have been great. You just didn't get into any of it.
Yeah, I think it was great for a small amount of people. But yeah, saw some stuff with the new Predator movie. Got to see the new Doctor. There's exciting stuff happening, and so glad you guys came out and talked to us about Superman today.
Yeah. It was fun.
Woo!
So are you doing anything online that you want people to be aware of, Mitch?
Yes, actually. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm Mitch, at Mitchipedia, GER, and the GER stands for Geek Elite Radio, and that's my podcast. Check that out. We do a bunch of different shows. Thursday's a movie show. Sunday is a bunch of different hour-long geek shows, like after shows that we do. Tuesday is all the comic book TV shows out there. So, your Arrows, your Supergirls, we talk about all that. And then Wednesday is straight up comic books. So check us out on any social media. You'll find us Geek Elite Radio.
Awesome. And Marshall, do you have an online presence you want to talk about?
I have a little online presence. Mostly I teach in Southern California. I teach storytelling to filmmakers and animators and storytellers and other things. And my website is marshallart.com. That's MARSHALLART, marshallart.com. And you can find me on Facebook as well. And I make announcements for when I do local stuff and online stuff.
Oh, so you do like local talks, stuff like that?
Yes, and screenings. I mean, I've shown more than 100 films with commentary, with students.
We
storytelling.
We should check some of those out.
Do you have any like seminars or anything coming up?
I do. I have an animal anatomy seminar coming up this next week. I have a draftsmanship seminar coming up this week. By the time your podcast people get this, it may be too late.
Yeah, it's next Friday.
But yes, if they're on my website, if they're subscribed to my list, they'll know everything that I do.
Oh, cool. All right.
Well, if you like this show, this is part of the Laugh Stash TV network of content. It's this podcast and a YouTube channel with a bunch of drinking shows, cooking show, video game parodies, and a lot of other fun stuff.
Yeah, so you can check us out on YouTube. We're Laugh Stash TV, or you can follow us on Twitter at Laugh Stash TV, or you can follow this podcast specifically at Let's Rewatch. And I saw a couple people say that they wanted the button, but they weren't here. So if there's interest in the button, let me know, and maybe we can sell it. But yeah, check us out.
If you liked our show, please give us a positive review on Google Play or iTunes, and we'd love to know what you thought of this live episode and if we should continue to break format and do these fun things.
So make sure your podcast feed is up to date and tell your friends. We'll be back in another 2 weeks for another episode of Let's Rewatch.
Next time we're going to watch Rabid Grannies.
Like they're rabbits?
Like rabbit, like they have rabies, like zombie grannies.